Hey guys, thanks so much for watching this video that I did with Josh Lustig. Great guy, fantastic future that he has, and it's just amazing what he's been able to accomplish at such a young age. He's so far ahead of where I was at his age in the business, and I'm just really excited for you guys to get to be able to unpack this conversation that we had together. Before we get into that, though, I got to talk to you guys about Lead Heroes, the sponsor for this video. Guys, Lead Heroes has got you covered in all of your telemarketing leads needs, if you will. They got you covered for final expense leads, Medicare supplement leads, Turn 65 leads. They can actually have you do a custom calling campaign where you pay by the hour to have one of their trained and very professional callers call their data for you and kind of match you with appointments, either over the phone or you go into the house. They just got something for everybody, guys. We use them on a regular basis. Just because you watch this video here today, they're going to give you 10% off all your orders. Link down in the description to their website, along with the coupon code listed right below it. Give them a chance. Use them in your business today. You won't be sorry.
What's up, guys? Hey, this is Christian Brindle with Six Figure Medicare Agent. Hope this video finds you doing well. And today I have a really, really special guest here with me today. This is somebody that I've been wanting to do a video with for some time. I have Josh Lustig here with me today. Josh, how are you doing this morning?
I'm doing great, Christian. Thanks for having me on.
Hey, well, thank you for taking the time to come on. I mean, I was telling you before we got on here, I'm seeing you all over the place. I'm seeing you, doing interviews with Landon. I'm seeing your name pop up in groups all the time. People suggesting, to get in touch with you for one thing or another. And so I know you're doing big things, and I know you're killing it. And it's just a pleasure to be able to talk with you today. So you said you're in Idaho, right?
Yeah, we're neighbors.
I didn't even realize that. That is so crazy to me. So we're the same time zone.
Yeah, it's pretty interesting. Not many people you talk to. I kind of think in Central Time.
Me too. I think in Central Time and Eastern Time, both of those, like my mind goes back and forth between the two, because it seems like every time I do a video with somebody, with the exception of Glenn's Pacific Time, but I'm never talking to anybody in my own time zone, so it's kind of refreshing.
Yeah, absolutely. And so we're in a small town in Idaho. There's only 900 people in my town, and that's something that it's funny. You talk to a lot of people, and some people can resonate with that. All the small town guys out there. I'm your guy.
Yes, I love it. I mean, I'm kind of a small town guy myself, not quite that small, but pretty small. Utah's not LA, if you will. But
exactly.
It's one thing that's really, really interesting to me from what I do know about you is, you're a really young guy, right? You're 23, aren't you?
Turned 24 yesterday.
Okay. Yeah. Congratulations. Happy birthday. Happy late birthday.
Thank you.
So tell me, talk us through a little bit about your journey. How did you get into the insurance space, and what age did you start? Because I don't know how much you know about me, but I started really young. I started when I was 20, about to turn 21. And so I think we might be kind of kindred spirits in that regard. I started really young. You probably started, just as young, if not younger. Talk us through a little bit about your journey. How did you get into insurance?
Sure. So my dad started our agency 25 years ago. So I kind of grew up with that, but we also had a family farm. And so I attribute any little success that I've had so far to the work ethic from the farm, right? And about when I was a sophomore in high school, all I wanted to do was be a farmer. And which was great. Farming's great. It's just that was my entire world, my entire mindset. Had no intention of going in the business world. And then I read a book, Leadership and Self-Deception. It's a business book. And my whole world changed. I absolutely fell in love with it. 54 books later, in 1 year, I just fell in love with personal development and the whole business space. And I went to college for 6 months, and I just didn't enjoy what I was learning there. Just personally, I didn't feel like it was bringing me down the path I wanted to. So an opening came up. My dad purchased another agency locally, and the opportunity was there. I was 19 years old and got my license.
Wow.
And just ever since then, I've loved it. Did a lot of local, just warm market stuff for, 3.5 years. And, recently we've pivoted and done some other stuff. But anyway, that's kind of my 30-second, overview of where we've came from, kind of the farm, and then a little bit of business knowledge from the books and podcasts, and being obsessed with people like Zig Ziglar and Brian Tracy. And that's just kind of led us to today.
I love that. And I feel so much of a connection with your story because it's so similar to mine. You know, like I first started studying for my license test when I was 19. And I was working a job. I was working a job as a server, and I made a friend who was in an MLM. And while I was studying for this test, and my dad really wanted me to get in, you know, that was kind of like what he wanted me to do. And so, but I bailed on it to join this MLM with my friend. And what was I thinking, right? Like, but I did that for about a year, and then I finally got in. But if the MLM did anything for me, it introduced me to personal development too. You know, like it was, because before that, it wasn't really a part of my life. You know, I didn't really know much about it. And I remember the first book I ever read that kind of just like shifted my thinking was Rich Dad, Poor Dad.
Yeah.
You know, I mean,
love that book.
I read that book, read Think and Grow Rich, just read, you know, the classic books. And I love it. I love books. I love, you know, personal development books. Anything I can do to learn something like that is just like, you know, huge. It's amazing. It's amazing the amount of information you can get in a $15, $20 book.
Oh, absolutely. It is unbelievable because I always say, I mean, think about this. How much money would you spend, knowing what you know now, to go spend, you know, even one day with a billionaire or multimillionaire that has done what you want to do in the business world? We all would say, oh yeah, lots of money. But then think about this. How much value can you get in one day? Think about that guy, the same guy, spent hundreds of his hours to put all of his life lessons into one little easy package that you can read, and it costs $19.99 on Amazon. And
very true.
You know, it's just interesting. You know, he put all that knowledge in there, or she, all that knowledge in there, and all we have to do is buy it and read it and apply it. You know,
right? 100%, 100%. So, talk me through a little bit about your. It's also interesting. I wanted to say this before I move on from this. You know, there's so many of us that are in that second generation club, right? You know, of people that are second generation. Like, you know, I'm second generation. I got into the business working with my dad, very similarly. Justin Brock was a guy like that. Cody's dad was in the business, very successful guy in the business. Even Galen Hendricks had a dad in the business. You know, like all these people, like it's just, I feel like we should create like a club, like a private club with all of us that are second generation or something. But one thing that I've always found interesting, and I remember the first time I ever talked to Justin, I asked him this too. And I asked this because I've felt it myself from certain people. Have you ever felt like people have tried to like discount your success because you had a parent in the business? Because I certainly have. I've had people try to drag me down for it. Yeah,
absolutely. You know, whether that's on a local level or on a, you know, larger scale in the agent community, I think there is that, you know, stigma. Oh, well, I think it can be discouraging for other people sometimes. And that's why you get those, is because they do feel like the success is because of that. Yeah. Which, you know, it does help. I'm not going to lie. Like, it helps to have that in certain ways, but there's also some burdens that come with that too. It's just different. I wouldn't say it's necessarily better. I know some people that didn't have the limiting beliefs that maybe I would have, just because that's how we've always done it, or things like that. And it's a leg up in a way, and in another way it's not. And it's just different. It's just a different way of entering the business. There's pros and cons. But yeah, I understand what you're saying. You know, there's that kind of stigma that, oh, well, that was handed to you. When in reality, people like yourself are out there, and, you know, your dad brought it here, and you want to take, and you're not starting from zero, you're starting from here. You want to blow that up even larger. And I think that's actually a very admirable thing that, you know, people like yourself or Justin or even Galen have done.
Yeah, well, I appreciate that. And, you know, I've always just kind of brushed it off myself, you know, because I'm of the big believer that, you know, doesn't matter what your parent did if you're not there putting in the work, you know, showing up every day, being consistent. And so I think from that perspective, it's on you 100%, you know, and so you being successful is 100% because you've got skill, you've got talent, you've got work ethic, and, you know, you're the one that puts in the work. You know, like my dad always told me, like, because he heard people say that, as I started to get more well known, and my dad would even, tell me privately, he's like, I didn't make all the phone calls for you. He's like, I didn't go on the appointments with you. He's like,
Right.
I didn't do this or do that or spend this money on this. And so, I think the people that are successful and the people that matter understand that, you're successful because of you. But, I think there will always be those people, but, who cares? Who cares what those people think?
Yeah. Haters are going to hate.
100%.
And, but, I guess I attribute a lot of my little successes that we've had so far and any future success to the principles I've learned from my dad,
Yeah.
and give him all the credit for that, mainly from the farm, which is interesting. We're in the same business now, but, things like just do the next right thing. That's our office motto. That comes from the farm, just do the next right thing. And things like that are, we're here to help people. All of those things really do help immensely. But I know what you're saying. The success, financially that someone has in this business really doesn't have anything to do with your parent in the business or out.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, but I also agree with what you said too. I think, like for me, it was helpful, if anything, for my dad to have somebody that was like a mentor, and somebody that can kind of teach you the business and kind of cut the learning curve. I did a Taco Tuesday. Me and Glenn did a Taco Tuesday with Justin before AEP. And he told this story, and I probably will get it wrong, but he told this story starting with his dad. His dad, I think he said his dad was paying him $10 on each med sup at the beginning. Like he was LOA to his dad. And I was like, whoa, I was like, you had it rough. I'm like, I wasn't LOA ever to my dad,
Nice.
so I think it's just different situations, different situations. And I think there's positives and negatives to it, like anything. And, but let's shift gears, Josh, over to, I know that you from what I've heard about you, and tell me if this is accurate, your target market is very heavily turning 65 people. Is that right?
Yeah, right now that's primarily what we're targeting. I personally like the conversation. I know there's lots of opportunity in all areas of the industry, but I love being the teacher and teaching people. And I feel like that's just a great fit. But we need to diversify a little bit more. But yeah, that's where we're at right now.
But it sounds, from what I've heard, it sounds like you're crushing it doing turning 65. So, it's nothing that you guys are doing that's wrong. It's from what it sounds like. One thing I get from agents a lot, because we onboard quite a few agents, we train agents, we do a lot of work with agents nowadays.
Sure.
And one pushback I always get from agents, especially when they're newer, about working turning 65, because I tell them, I'm like, turning 65 is all year round. I'm like, turning 65 is all year round. There's no enrollment period. There's no special enrollment periods needed. There's none of this, none of that. And so, but the pushback I always get from agents, from what it seems like, is, well, there's so much competition with turning 65. What would you say to an agent that might be listening that thinks that?
I guess I'm a competitive guy. So when you say there's a lot of competition, I love that. I really do. And I guess maybe some people don't have that, that drive, but I like that. I know it's a competitive market. Maybe it's a little crowded. It just depends on how you're reaching those folks. If you're the one that's just going to buy a list of phone numbers, which I know works, but if you're just going to buy a list of phone numbers and cold call, those same people, well, it is a little hard to compete with the big call centers on that. They don't really, I'm finding they don't answer their phone as much, because about months, 7 months before or sooner, they're going to get bombarded.
Right.
I know everything works a little bit, like Justin always says, everything works a little, nothing works a lot. Yeah. We found some success with building some of our own online marketing funnels. I spent lots. I don't even want to give the figure how much money I've spent in the last year. It makes me sound incredible. But we spent a lot of money learning how to do that, and that's been helping us tremendously warm people up before we ever even get on the phone. That does help a lot. We're finding text messaging. People that are turning 65, if I give one piece of advice, we're getting so much better response rate with a text message than a phone call. And I mean only a text message. Once we start calling them, it seems like all of a sudden they flag our number and they go, even if you text them at that point, it feels salesy to them. Right. Whereas if you invite them to a phone meeting through a text message, we're finding a lot better results with that. So I don't know how long that'll last. I'm sure that'll get, you got to evolve, but the competition's real. But if you find a way to kind of sidestep what most people are doing, it does help.
Yeah. And I agree with that 100%. I mean, and I love what you said there. You're like, I'm a competitive guy. I like the competition. It's always been weird to me. For some reason in our industry, there's so many people trying to run away from competition. I am of the opinion. I mean, we do have competition. You have call centers, you have eHealths of the world, you have,
Sure.
these big companies. I think those are the competition, Walmart getting into space, potentially Amazon. That I think that's where the competition lies. I don't think it's so much, you and me and Justin. I don't believe that's really as much of the competition. But I mean, insurance is one of those things where it seems like people are so afraid of the competition, but like, I mean, in anything that's good in life, there's competition. I mean, the steam always rises to the top, and it's one of those things, to where, like, if you believe you belong in this industry, you shouldn't run away from the competition. It's almost like an NBA player, coming into the NBA, and they're like, I don't know if you're a sports fan, but like an NBA player. Oh, good. An NBA player coming into the NBA, and they're like, oh, I got to play Steph Curry tonight. That's too much competition. I don't want to, I'm not going to play tonight, or I got to play, Kevin Durant or LeBron tonight. That's too much competition. I don't feel like I'm going to do so well with that. So I'm just not going to play. Like, it's weird. It's weird to me. Right.
Right. Those caliber of players, if you want to bring it way back, John Stockton, Karl Malone, throw it back to some Utah for you.
Yes.
Against, like Michael Jordan, you look at interviews with those kinds of characters, and they're going, they can't wait. Like, even though they know it's going to be tough, but if they just pick up one little thing, it's a drive, it's a competition. They go back and watch game film, and they go, how the heck did he do that? Like, how did he do that? And they study, and they evolve, and they get better, and and the competition rises, like you just said. I think that's very important if you want to play, and not everyone has that goal, but if you want to play at the highest level, I'm nowhere near that, and I'm trying to get there, but that's where my goal is. And so you have to embrace the competition. It's actually a good thing. It means people are killing it. If there was nobody inspiring in this industry like yourself or any of the people we've mentioned, it would be pretty discouraging. Like, I got to be the trailblazer. I've got to be the only one that is successful. That would be pretty disappointing. The good news is, in this industry, if somebody is writing even 5 more apps a month than you, obviously they can teach you something. And there's a lot of people that are writing more business than me or anyone else that's watching this. So to me, that's just inspiring. If they can do it, obviously they know something that I don't. And if I learn that, gosh, I can rise to the top too.
Yeah, 100%. And I think that's the attitude that I wish every agent had. I really do. I mean, I think, we wouldn't have such a high turnover rate in our industry. I think if people kind of came in with that approach. Have you ever read the book Relentless by Tim Grover?
I have not.
You should. I recommend it.
I'm going to write that down.
I think you'd love it. Tim Grover, you probably know who he is, but Tim Grover was Michael Jordan's, for the audience, Tim Gordon was Michael Jordan's trainer, Kobe Bryant's trainer, and Dwayne Wade's trainer temporarily. And he's worked with like tons of professional athletes. And he goes through this book, and he talks about, like what the mindset of these guys were to be who they were. And, it's more of a business book than a sports book. It's supposed to be a business book, for like, people to reach their next step in their business and entrepreneurship, and kind of what you can learn mindset wise from these guys and these athletes. And so it's a good book. I think you'd love it. I think you'd eat it up.
Well, I wrote it down. I'm going to go buy it. And I take suggestions like that very, with high esteem. I'm going to go do it. And I guess I love what you just said, because in my opinion, most of the business is what you got going on in here. Yeah. It really is. And it sounds cliche because everyone will say it in their own little way. But I think that's the reason everyone says it. It's true, and the fact that, learning the online marketing thing the last, year and a half, I almost quit twice, and I'm not a quitter. And one night my wife, I was just like, I don't think I spent another, $3,000 on ads. Didn't work out the way I wanted to. I was pretty disappointed. And I was going to I'll throw in the towels. We'll try something else. And my wife goes, well, Josh, I thought you were not a quitter. And I'm like, well, you're right. That kind of hurt me. That competitive, like, you're really going to hang it up in the fourth quarter? I'm like, no, I'm not. You're right. And I think it is that mindset. The more you can pour into your brain, the more personal development, the better. Because when the things get tough, that's when you have to persevere through. And
Yeah.
good thing I have a great wife, or I probably wouldn't have been here.
Yeah, support system, man. I mean, my wife has been in a lot of points in my career, and a lot of points in my life, really my only support system. For some of the things that I wanted to do with our business, and I'm sure you felt that way too in some respects. And like, a question I have for you is, I'm sure you heard when you started doing the online marketing and the digital marketing, I'm sure you kind of, did you get any pushback from people you knew in the industry that were maybe a generation or two ahead of you? Did you get any pushback? They're like, that doesn't work. It doesn't work with seniors, not with our business. Did you ever hear any of that?
Yeah, surprisingly, nothing from my family, which was very surprising to me. They were pretty open to it because I've had a decent track record of, doing what I say I'm going to do.
Yeah.
But in the industry itself, yes, obviously, you spend any time in these groups, which are wonderful resources. But when marketing gets brought up, you'll hear all kinds of things. Basically, quite frankly, I am a believer that it all works. If you
Yes, me too.
Otherwise, why would people be doing it? And for example, I hear all the time that, Facebook doesn't work. I tried that. Don't even attempt it. Well, I can promise you it does.
Yeah.
Or, direct mail doesn't work. Well, maybe it doesn't work the way you were trying it, but if you tweak it and you do it the way that guy over there that just wrote, 45 apps this month off of his direct mail batch, if you do what he did, I'm pretty sure it would work. So it's just all about finding what you want to do, what you want to focus on. And for me, it's don't lose sight. Like, I think we give up too soon on most things.
Yeah.
I almost gave up on the whole online thing, and I would have tried something else. And sure, maybe I would have tried some more direct mail campaigns and tweaked it. Maybe that would have worked for me just as well. I don't probably think it would have in my particular situation. But if I would have given up, I wouldn't have found the gold mine. You see that guy in the tunnel, digging away, and he almost gets to the gold, and he almost gets there, and then he turns around and walks out right before he gets to the gold in the mine. I love that example because I think it holds true.
Yeah, 100%.
Most of us give up too soon, and I think it all works if you just focus on tweaking it and putting your own twist on it enough to see the results.
Yeah, I agree completely. Have you ever seen any of those kind of pictures where there's like two people side by side digging holes? And one person finds like a little diamond and he's like, yeah. And then the other guy's like, he jumps in that guy's hole and keeps digging. And then it shows on his hole, he had like a diamond that was like 10 times the size and he was like a foot from it. Like,
yes,
it's
exactly.
just like that. It's like abandoning, something that you have conviction in prematurely, it probably took me a lot longer to kind of really figure out the whole Facebook ad thing than I'd like to admit. Probably took me like 10, 11 months to really feel like I got it. There were plenty of months that were just complete duds, to really, get what we were expecting for that month. And so I was talking to an agent the other day and I was telling him, I was like, for me personally, I'm like, it took me some time to really feel like I was like, okay, I got this, when I was running ads and creating ads. And, I'm like, it probably took me 10 months, 11 months. And they were like, I don't have that kind of time. I'm like, it takes time to learn. I'm like, you have to learn what works, what doesn't work, what's going to work for your brand. Do you want to do video, not video? How are you going to target? How you got to figure out, retargeting pixels, what landing page. I mean, there's so many things to know for someone that's just brand new to that stuff, but you don't just quit on it. I mean, it's working so well for so many people. You don't want to just put in, 3 months of work and then just abandon it because that was a wasted 3 months and a wasted all the ad spend you spend.
Exactly. And, one thing that, one of my mentors, taught me, and I, not soon enough, but is, if someone has the knowledge or the skill set or the resource that you need, quite frankly, there's two ways to get it. You can just do it all on your own and test and test and test and test and test and try to figure it out. And that takes a lot of time and a lot of money in its own way in testing. Or if they have the exact thing that you want, don't be afraid to reach out to that person and ask them for advice. And it might have a price tag associated with it. If they're really at that level, there might be a price tag to get their time, but reach out. And I've spent a lot of money this year, over $100,000 on courses and marketing and sales coaching and how to develop this, the return on that in my lifetime, right now it doesn't feel as good, when you just get done putting the money in. But when you look at the overall picture of your lifetime, gosh, it's going to be, thousands of % return on that money, which you can't get anywhere else.
Yeah, 100%.
And, you don't want to waste money on people that don't know what they're talking about, obviously. But if you know of someone that has the results or the, information or skill set that you want, gosh, reach out to them. And I've had really good success with people such as yourself. You have a lot of knowledge, and you have ways, you have some courses and things that you can buy into, and it's really reasonable for the amount of knowledge that you're going to get from it. So, that's one thing that I've done very well this year, not everything, but is spending money on the right places to learn from people like you or, other people in the industry.
Well, I appreciate you saying that. I felt like, I've always felt like, it's interesting because there's people that are maybe too prideful to ask for help, kind of thing. Like there's people that might feel like, oh, if I ask for help, it makes me look weak. I've never really understood that. I've probably driven Justin nuts with questions over the years, like different kind of things. Like right now we're trying to build out a captive agent team in our office. It sounds like you guys are doing something maybe kind of similar, or maybe just bringing in agents. I'm not sure, but that's something that I have zero experience with, hiring LOAs. We've never done it before. And so I've been driving him nuts lately, asking him questions, like sliding in his DMs and stuff, because he's done it and done it very well. Beish is another guy. Bobby Beish has been another guy that's, been super generous with his time in terms of like just helping me out and answering me some questions here and there, like in a direct message. And so it's almost weird to me that some people just, I feel like there's probably two reasons. I think some people feel like, can't wrap their head around maybe the money that it would cost to talk to some of these guys. But on the other hand, it might also be like a pride thing, be like, if I ask this person for help, it's going to make me look weak, kind of thing.
Yeah, I think there is some of that, and everyone has a different personality, pros and cons to every which way, in my opinion. But I guess I kind of view it the same way. I'm almost too prideful not to. Like I want to, like if they have it, I'll do what it takes to get that same, knowledge, because I want to be where they're at in a, friendly, competitive way. Obviously, it's nothing.
Yes.
It's not trying to, overtake anybody. But, coming back to the sports analogy, if you really want to compete at that level, you don't have a problem going to a coach and saying, hey, like, what can I do to get better in this particular area? And it does take a certain sense of, setting your pride aside, sometimes. But I think that's how you grow. Personally, I just think that if you do it all on your own, I don't think you're going to get where you want to go. At least I'm not smart enough to figure that out. If someone else is, more power to them, but I'm not smart enough to figure it all out on my own.
When I was first trying to do Facebook ads, I first started doing it maybe 2-3 months into 2018. Before that, we hadn't done anything like that. And I bought Justin's Facebook course, and it was like, I think I paid $200 for it. And that is the best $200 I think I've ever spent in my entire life. What it taught me early on in terms of just kind of like the basics of designing things and, just kind of introducing me to that was huge. It cut the learning curve down dramatically. And, he could charge $2,000, $20,000 for that course, with all the information he shares in there. And so, I'm a big believer in what you said as well. I've bought courses, time with people, things like that. And, it's paid off dramatically because trying to figure it out yourself is just not always the best way.
Exactly. Couldn't agree more.
So, question for you is so I ask a lot of people that come on this, and I'm always fascinated by the different answers I get from different people. But you obviously are somebody that you're really plugged into the groups. You know a lot of people in the industry. Is there one or two things that you see a lot of agents doing in their business on a day-to-day basis that could be perceived as maybe a mistake, something that agents could, quickly do, like a little hack that would just dramatically impact their business in a positive way?
I guess off the top of my head, I would have to the first thing that jumps up there is, training. I think you get to a certain comfortable level. I think at the beginning you're hungry for training because you don't know anything. You
Yeah.
know that you don't know how to sell on the phone. So you're searching that out. And then I think the natural evolution of those that have a skill set that can make it in this industry. I think at a certain point you feel like you kind of made it. You kind of figured out how to do it to an adequate level, and then forget. And I think it's just, honestly, I don't think it's a pride thing at this point. I think it's just you forget to go back and go, I could tweak this. I do this all the time. Where I get this big project going, and it finally, after you get it off the ground, maybe it's a new hire or something, you get it off the ground and it's going well enough that you feel like it's not a problem. It's not a fire of your day. You don't have to put the fire out. Once it gets to that level, I think it's really easy for you in your business just to let it slide, just to let it go, and to let it just go by osmosis and not really pay attention, whether that's a new employee or whether that's your own sales ability. So you're doing, well, but you could always do better and in your sales ability. And so for me, I got to constantly remember, okay, even though I feel like I'm pretty good on the phone, closing this, med sup deal, I could always learn something and train to be better. I could always do that. Michael Jordan, back to our example, is not just going to say, okay, I have an X percentage of shooting percentage. That's good enough. No, he's going to go to the gym and he's going to go, how can I perfect that craft? If I miss one free throw this year, it means I could have made more, Yeah,
100%. And I couldn't agree more with you on that. I actually, it's funny you said that. I did a video right after AEP that was like, what are you going to work on for next year for your business? And talk about, and in the video talked about like, LeBron. LeBron's a great example of that. Like LeBron comes into the NBA, right? He's a 18-year-old kid and he's got all the natural talent in the world. If he never added a thing to his game from that point, he can pass, he can rebound, he can, drive to the basket. He's super athletic. He's a freak. He's probably going to be a Hall of Famer already. Yep. But the guy adds post work, he post game, he adds a 3-point shot. He adds a mid-range shot. He becomes a better defensive player. Like that's the mindset people should have. I need to always get better. I think, to kind of piggyback on what you said, and I'm sure you've seen a lot of this too. For me, I don't understand guys that get into the business and they build a business over maybe 20 years or so. And maybe they'll have 1,000 clients, 3,000 clients, something like that. A good base. They have, a couple $100,000 coming in renewals every year or something like that. And, but they just let it sit, they service their business or they never do anything different. Like maybe they built that business through direct mail or door knocking. They never do anything different. They never add anything new to their business. So it just kind of stays at that level and never goes upward. I've always had a hard time with that mentality. Like I've always loved in life that, you reach a plateau, you reach a level, but you got to find a way to go above that level and kind of break through that roof a little bit. And I think that's what makes our business so fun, is because you can do that. There's really no limit to how high you can climb.
That's exactly right. And I guess different, whatever floats your boat. If you're someone that would like that lifestyle more, that's totally fine. But don't make it an excuse. I have a local, he has nothing to do with the insurance world. He actually owns a steel fabrication shop. He's a big deal. He's very, very well off. He's a good friend of mine now because he's a client, but he was telling me this thing that I'll never forget. He says, Josh, when you're building your business, there's going to be kind of these stair steps, kind of these plateaus, if you will. And at first you're going to be climbing, let's say you're a single producer, like in your world, Josh, in the insurance world, and you're going to be climbing this stair and it's on an upward climb. And as soon as you get to about the top of it, that's where you're going to make the most money and have the least amount of time, right? So this is the person that's a personal producer that is crushing it, but you don't really have any team and your profit margin is awesome, but you have no time and you don't really have the lifestyle you want yet. Well, that's kind of the first stair step. And then you have to make a conscious decision if you want to go to the next stair step, because you have to hire people. So you hire an assistant and another sales guy. All of a sudden, you're going up this next stair step. You're not making quite as much money in profit, and it takes a big risk. You have to jump off the ledge, if you will. You have to start climbing the next stair. Well, all of a sudden, you get your systems down, and now, a year later, you are a well-oiled machine. And now you're at the next level, and you're making a lot more than the first level. But again, now you're maxed out again, and you have to go to the next stair step, and it just is a repetitive cycle until you build a company that's running itself, and you are not tied to the chair anymore.
Yeah.
And I just thought that won't ever leave me, because it's very interesting. Your profit might not be as great when you are the person that's getting 200,000 in renewals, and you're sitting on that. Well, it is a daunting task to all of a sudden decide, I'm going to take the next stair, and I'm going to hire a bunch of people, and I'm going to spend more in marketing. It is scary, and I think that's what prevents most people, is just that fear. But I love what you said about that.
Yeah, and I think that's a fantastic analogy. Really, I mean, it's something that is so spot on. I posted in my group yesterday, and I didn't think a lot of people understood what I was trying to say, but I posted in my group just yesterday, and I this was kind of along my lines of thought. I was like, in this business, it's not checkers, it's chess.
Yeah.
Don't treat it like it's checkers. And people are like, well, it actually is checkers, because all you do is you buy leads, you spend money on marketing, you go on appointments, you sell, you service the client, repeat, rinse and repeat, rinse and repeat. I'm like, if that's the only thing that you're worried about in your business, I know where your business is at.
Right.
I'm like, if that's the only thing that you're thinking about, I mean, not to say that there's anything wrong with that. Again, like you said, if that's kind of, if someone's goal is to make, is to build a business with 1,000 clients and then just service it, that's fine. You live a great life,
Sure. Nothing wrong with that at all.
Your family will be taken care of. Your bills will be paid. Like, they're more power to you. Maybe you're just looking for kind of just a stress-free life. I can respect that. I don't have any problem with that. But I think, a lot of people, like yourself, would probably understand what that means, in terms of like, you have to get more strategical. There's more things for you to take into consideration the farther you climb in your business.
Exactly. And one other piece to his analogy, and this is not something that I came up with, so I have to give credit to him. He's a lot smarter than me. But he's just saying, Josh, make sure that when you're looking at that you have the vision of the top step, like the end goal somewhere down the road. Make sure you have that vision. But a lot of people will get discouraged when they see Christian Brindle on step 5 and I'm on step 0, right? Maybe I'm just getting into the business. They see Christian up here playing chess at a very high level. That's where they want to go. Step 5, 6, 7. They're on step 1. Make sure that you don't get discouraged by that, but you actually get inspired by it. And it's a very fine line, as we all know. We all look at people that are giants in the industry, and make sure that it inspires you that they're there. And just take notes and say, okay, I have to do step 1 first, and then go to step 2, and then the 3, and make it an inspirational thing, not well, they're so far ahead, I'll never be there.
Yeah, agreed, 100%. I think the Facebook groups are fantastic in so many ways. I think if you had to find a negative, if you had to be a negative Nancy and find a negative to them, I think it'd probably be that it kind of can bum agents out. It can make them feel like they're doing nothing, or like I always tell people, like, a lot of times when people post production numbers or things like that, they're posting production numbers for like an agency, like a group of agents, like a team of people. And I tell people, I'm like, you're comparing you as a single person business and a single person producer to like a group of 50 agents. You got to put this into perspective a little bit,
Exactly.
You got to learn how to play checkers, I guess, before you can play chess, right?
We'll just build off that. I like it.
Yeah. So last question I had for you, Josh. What would be your top 3 books that you'd recommend to someone if anyone's listening?
I'm going to be honest. I'm a very candid guy. So number 1, the Bible. That's just me. I think that you can learn a lot of business stuff and otherwise. One of my favorite books of all time is How to Win Friends and Influence People. It's a classic, kind of the original, but I think there's so much that if you don't have the foundation right, you don't actually have people's best interest in mind. I think that book addresses a lot of that, and everything else, in my opinion, is built off of it. So absolutely love How to Win Friends and Influence People, Dale Carnegie. And then another one that is just an amazing book is Goals by Brian Tracy. I don't know if he has a lot of books. Something that's not quite as well known. I like the audiobook version, but I think it's the single best dissertation on setting goals and how to systematically achieve them. I use his framework to set my own goals. And I think that half of life in general is just having a vision. Where do you want to be? And then break it down to what steps does it take to get there. And I love his book on that. But I would challenge you, Christian. I want to hear what are your favorite books?
Oh, I put the pressure's on. No, I'm just kidding. I love books. I could talk about books all day.
I love your book club coming up, though. By the way.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'm excited about that.
I'm stoked about it. It's something like last year, particularly like a normal year, I'll probably read somewhere between 20 to 40 books for the year, somewhere in there.
Wow.
I really try to make it a big part of what I do. But last year, particularly with everything we were doing, with the Facebook group, with YouTube channels, podcasts, running the agency, all that stuff, there was, I don't know, it just felt like it got away from me. I only read 1 or 2 books last year, and I was disappointed in myself. And so, I would say my 3 would be The Greatest Salesman in the World, in no particular order, by Og Mandino.
Love that.
I love that book. 10X Rule, probably by Grant Cardone. And I'm trying to think if I'm missing any. I'd probably put Rich Dad Poor Dad in there. If not that, probably How to Win Friends and Influence People, Think and Grow Rich. I think any of those can kind of slide into that third spot. It's hard to choose just 3.
Sure. Yeah, that's impressive. 20 to 40. That's an impressive number. I used to be obsessed with reading and podcasts and stuff, but as you get busier, I guess it's harder to keep that spot in your life for that that time slot. But one of my goals for this year is I want to get back to taking at least a half an hour a day just to focus on the personal development side of things, because I think that's where it all starts for a lot of us. And as you go on, sometimes it's easy just to forget about where that all came from.
Yeah, 100%. Well, I think this is a good closing spot here. Josh, thank you so much for the time today and kind of sharing your insight. This was great. And where can people find you?
Yeah, I'm on Facebook, just Josh Lustig. Look me up, friend me. I love making friends in the industry. And if there's anything that I can ever do to help anybody, I will do it.
Great. Well, thanks so much for your time. And it was great to get to connect and kind of, have this great conversation. Everybody, if you enjoyed this video today, do me a favor, drop a like on the video, drop a comment on your thoughts on the video. If you had anything you wanted to add to what we talked about today, and subscribe for future 6-figure Medicare agent content. Have a great day. Take care, everybody.